Alright, I think this is my first car intro to the vlog, so welcome to the inside of my car. Today is a first for me, and a part of this vlog is I want to take you guys on my journey, and you guys are at the very beginning. I just recently started playing poker for a living just a few years ago, and I mostly played 1-2 and grinded up my bankroll and played 2-3, and then took some shots occasionally playing 2-5. So I'm just now venturing to play a little bit higher stakes, and today will be the biggest buy-in that I've ever played so far. It's going to be a $2,500 buy-in at the 5-5 here at Lone Butte, and I'm going to be playing with the infamous, the only Brad Owen. So he's here, and I'm excited to get in there and play. It's going to be fun. I'm not too nervous about the buy-in amount. It is the most I've ever bought in for. I think prior to that, the most I've ever bought into a game for was $1,500. So it's a little bit bigger, and I'm sure the game's gonna play pretty crazy, but I'm willing to get in there and mix it up and see if we can build up a stack. So here we go. Lone Butte 5-5 game, Brad Owens game. Gonna be a fun one. Welcome to Gila River Hotels and Casinos, Lone Butte. I got there early, and since Brad wasn't there yet, I decided to put my name on the 3-300 list, which is a $2, $3 blind game where you can bet anything from $3 to $300 at any time. When I scoped out the table, it looked pretty decent, so I was excited to get in there. I quickly got a seat and I was ready to play. Alright, here we go. I sat down in seat number 5. Unfortunately, it's the worst seat to vlog in, so I wasn't able to get footage of this. There was nowhere to set the camera. But nevertheless, in this hand, there was a raise to 15 from the cutoff. This player and I have a lot of history together. We've played a lot of pots together at Wild Horse Pass back in the day. I look down at ace-7 of spades on the button, and I decide to flat. The small blind, who I also have a lot of history with, he's a very loose player and kind of unpredictable at times, but he comes along too. So we go 3 ways to a flop. The flop is ace-8-3 with 2 clubs. The cutoff continuation bets for $40. I have top pair but not the best kicker. I'm not loving it at this point, but I also do have a backdoor spade draw. I'm not going to fold my pair just yet, so I call. The small blind also calls, which with his playstyle, he can have anything. The turn is a 6 of diamonds, and the small blind checks, the original razor checks, and I check back. The river is a 9 of diamonds, and the small blind checks again, so I don't think he has very much at this point. So I'm watching the original razor, and at first he looks like he wants to check, and he seemed really unsure. And right before he was about to check, then he started reaching for chips, and he slid a bet out there of $130, and he looked very unsure about it. This bet is a pretty large bet. This player is definitely capable of bluffing. Clubs missed. It seems as though he would have a really strong ace or nothing. I would imagine any strong ace to continue barreling on the turn, especially with a flush draw out there against 2 opponents. So I think for a bit, and then I flick in a chip to call. The small blind folds very, very quickly, and the original razor puts his cards out like he wants to muck them and says, I can't win. And I decided just to flip over my hand. He already seemed pretty frustrated by my call, so I flipped it over, and we're good. So we scoop around a $400 pot, and it's a great way to start the session. Alright, in this hand there are 2 limps, and I'm in the cutoff, and I look down at pocket kings. I make it $15 to go. Next to act calls, the guy next to him calls, and the 2 limpers call, so we're going 5 ways to a flop. Not ideal with pocket kings. The flop is ace, jack, jack, rainbow. Of course, right? So this one checks all the way around, so we're going 5 ways to a turn. The turn is a 10 of spades, and it checks all the way around yet again. The river is the 4 of hearts, and the guy to my left, the same guy I said I have history with, who's a bit unpredictable and is definitely capable of bluffing, he bets $25. In hindsight, I definitely think I should just be letting my hand go, but not only was I curious, but I also think if anybody was going to take a stab and try to win this pot by bluffing, it would be him. So I call, and he shows ace queen of clubs, so I got taken to Value Town myself there. but I think I got away fairly cheap considering he didn't 3-bet pre-flop, and we definitely would have put the 4-bet in, and he would have flatted, and we would have got out-flopped and lost an even bigger pot, so I guess I can't complain too much about this one. In this hand, it folds around to me on the button, and I look down at King-Queen offsuit, and I'm happy to raise this one, and I make it 15 to go. The big blind calls, so we go heads up to a flop, and the flop is Queen 3-9 rainbow. Villain checks, and I down bet to $10. He calls. The turn is an offsuit 8, he checks again, and I want to keep betting for value. I make it 20, and he folds pretty quickly, but we pick up another pot. I got word that they were opening up the table where Brad was going to be playing, so this was probably going to be my last hand of this 3-300 session. There's a limp under the gun, and I look down at 9-8 of clubs on the button. What a beautiful hand. I raise to $15. Only the limper calls, so we go heads up to a flop. The flop is 6-6-7 with 2 spades and 1 club, so we flop ourselves an open-ended straight draw and a backdoor flush draw. We have 9 high, so when he checks to us, we're going to continue betting, and I bet $10. He calls. The turn is the King of Hearts. This is a great card for my overall range, and this is going to put pressure on most of his holdings. So when he checks, I bet $30, and he folded. So we took down our last pot of this session, and now we're going to move over to the table where Brad's going to be playing, and I'm excited to get in there. So I racked up my chips and headed to the cashier. I was in the game for $800, and I cashed out with $1,067 for a profit of $267. Not bad for my first session here. I was starving, so I decided to grab a quick bite to eat. So I headed over to the Full House Cafe at Lone Butte. Honestly, I really like their food. I haven't had a dish there that I haven't liked, and in this case, I got the herb-crusted chicken with mashed potatoes. And fun fact about me, and I'm sure you'll be learning a lot more about me throughout this vlog, but I love potatoes. All kinds of potatoes, any potatoes. I could talk forever about all the different types of potato dishes I like. So I piled on the mashed potatoes and the fries, cause YOLO, and I ate my meal, and then I was finally ready to jump in the game. So I headed back to the cashier for the biggest buy-in I've ever played, which is a $2,500 buy-in. So I took my chips to the table and got set up. Alright, I sat down at the table and I was ready to play. Brad was playing in another game to start, so our game started out 5-handed, sometimes 6-handed, and the table was playing pretty tight. I think everybody was just waiting for Brad to get there, but nevertheless, we were going to take our shot in this game, 5-5 game, and again, the biggest buy-in I've played in. So in my first hand, I pick up King-Queen suited in the small blind. It folded to me, and normally I would chop in a smaller game, but because this is a 5-5 game, I'm going to play my hand. So I raise to 15, and the big blind comes along. I would love to tell you what the flop was, but honestly, I was still getting set up for my vlogging and note-taking, so I did not take notes on this hand, but I do remember it came either a king or a queen. I c-bet $10, and he folded, and we took it down. So we win our first pot, and we're off to the races. That's all I'll say, because that's where things are headed. In this hand, we're still 6-handed, and middle position raises to $15. I look down at King 10 of clubs in the cutoff, and I decide to 3-bet this hand, and I make it $60 to go. It folds to the big blind, and he is not ready to throw in his cards. In fact, he's reaching for raising chips, and he puts in the cold 4-bet, and he makes it $240 to go. This puts me in a very easy decision to just fold my hand. So far, the table is not getting out of line at all, and I don't want to peel here. Even though I'm in position, I could be drawing near dead. Even if I do hit top pair, this hand is just going to be a fold. I fold, and he flips over pocket queens, and I'm happy to see that I made the right decision there. In this hand, the hijack raises to $15. I'm in the cutoff, and I look down at pocket aces, and I make it $60 to go. Only he calls, so we go heads up to a flop. The flop is 10-6-4, 2 clubs. He checks, I make a c-bet of $50, and he folded pretty quickly. In this hand, we're 1500 effective, and I raise King-Queen offsuit from middle position to $15. Next to at calls and the button calls. So we go 3 ways to a flop, and the flop is Jack 9-5 with 2 spades. On this board, and being out of position against 2 players, I can definitely check call. My hand is strong enough to face any size bet here, and so I decide to go into check call mode, especially being out of position and against 2 opponents on a board that has a lot of gut shots available. I should also note that sometimes this hand can be a check raise. So it checks around to the button and he bets $40, and I make the call. The turn is an offsuit 7, I check again and he fires again. And now facing another bet, my hand is just going to be a fold, and we can move on to the next one. Alright, it is a beautiful day out. I'm taking a quick break here. Brad hasn't gotten to our table yet. He's playing at some other tables. So we're playing like 5 or 6 handed, which the game is playing a little bit tight, and I'm stuck, I think, about $150 at this point. Nothing too crazy, but there's not a lot of money being tossed around yet. Probably just waiting for Brad to get to the table, which makes sense. So we're gonna keep playing and see if we can run it up. In this hand, we find ourselves with pocket 7s under the gun, and so I make it 15 to go. Next to act calls and the big blind calls. The flop is ace, ace, 6, 2 spades, and here's where I think I make a bit of a mistake. On this board texture, I should be betting about quarter pot, but instead I sized up to $30. The fairly tight passive player to my left calls, and we go heads up to a turn. The turn is the queen of hearts. Now, because of my bet sizing on the flop, he's probably continuing with a pretty strong range here. He's not going to have too many king-high floats or those sorts of hands, so I decided to check, and he bet 75, and I decided to let my hand go. I think I torched a little bit of money on fire there. I should have sized my bet down on the flop, but either way, he probably had a strong holding, definitely a hand that beat mine, and so we let it go. So after a lot of folding, some raising, a little bit of pot taking, and a lot of our chips going in the wrong direction, Brad finally arrived to our table. We were all excited that he was finally ready to come play at our table. The butterflies and the nerves definitely got to me. Now I knew everyone was gonna liven up a bit and the pots were about to get crazy. Alright, Ashley, play it cool. Don't approach him right away. Let him get settled in and sit down and get acclimated first before you go up and try to introduce yourself. Or don't. Go up to him right away. And that's exactly what I did. I went right up to him and gave him a little fist bump, said, "Hey, nice to meet you." And of course, he was very nice, and we were ready to play some pots together.
We are going to witness the most anticipated match. Let's get ready to rumble!
Alright, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Vlogger versus vlogger showdown. Battle of the vloggers. Here it goes. There's a straddle on the button to $10. The small blind folds, the big blind completes for $5 more. Brad Owen is under the gun and he makes it $40. I look down at ace queen offsuit 2 seats over and I decide to 3-bet it and I make it $150 to go. Folds back to him and he calls. So at this point I know he has something decent, something reasonable. The flop comes ace jack 8, 2 hearts. He checks to me and I decide to down bet this board and I make it 105. He calls. The turn is a jack of clubs. He checks again, and the middle card pairing the board now makes my hand a 2 street value hand. I'm not going to keep barreling on this card, especially because he can have some king jack suited, some jack 10 suited. So I'm going to check here for protection and see what the river brings and go for value if it's a brick. The river is a brick, it's a 4 of diamonds, he checks, and I have to go for value now, and so I bet 225. He didn't think very long before calling, and so I knew I was probably up against a weaker ace, and sure enough, he flips over the ace-9 of hearts, so I definitely dodged some outs there, fading the heart, and we scoop a really nice pot. He showed his hand for the vlog, as you can see, and it was a fun hand, well, for me at least. At least I got to say I played a big pot against Brad and took some of those Bradley dollars, which feels good. It was also the biggest pot I've played yet at Lone Butte, so it was fun to take that one down. And a huge thanks to Brad for shouting me out in his vlog and putting my vlog link in his description. That was really cool of him. He was also kind enough to take a picture with me, and overall a super nice guy, and I'm very happy that I got to meet him. Thanks for coming to my neck of the woods, Brad, and next time you come around to Arizona, I sure hope you run better than you did at your session at Lone Butte. Alright, well, I had a big commitment I have to get to, so I couldn't stay very long, but luckily I did get to play a few pots with Brad. It was fun, and overall just a really nice guy, and happy to finally meet him and get in the action. It was a great game. There's lots of people that showed up, so it was fun. Overall, a really good session. In for 2,500, out for 2,676 for a profit of $176. So at least we ended up in the green after being down a bit early. So I'm happy, and I'm gonna head home now, and we'll see you guys next time. Wow, it is hot. It is 104 degrees. Good old Arizona weather for you. At least I did get a few good hands in today and was able to book a nice profit for the day. And anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the vlog, would you do me a huge favor and go all in and like, comment, and subscribe? It would mean the absolute world to me. We're just getting started here. This is only my 8th vlog. We have a long way to go in this journey, and it's only up from here. I'll see you guys next time.